It's a baby!
Riveting story. It was really good. Alright, we gotta go. I gotta tell the internet about the guy I named you after, okay? You gotta go hang
Oh,
out.
he named his son after it? Wait.
Today we're talking about the most gangster politician in American
Slap
history.
his
Ladies and gentlemen,
spittin'. Oh my
Cassius
God.
Marcellus Clay, a.k.a. the Lion
Kinda
of
true.
Whitehall. Whitehall being his family home that he grew up in Kentucky as the son of one of the richest slave owners in all of America. While going to college at Yale to become a lawyer, he would attend a speech
What?
from the abolitionist
He said that so
named
casually.
Garrison, and that speech would change the entire trajectory of Cassius Clay's life as well as American history. It is at that moment that Cassius Clay decided he was not only going to be quietly opposed to slavery, but that he was actively going to fight against it. He would be set down
there we go.
the
It had a
path to
happy
become the
turn.
most
Happy turn.
abolitionist of all time. Oh god, forgot to do the ad. Hold on. Sorry for bothering the video. Real quick, this video is brought to you by the biggest sponsor of the channel and my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got over 30 retail locations across the United States and an even better online store that I'm gonna
I
have
think
linked
I've
down
heard
below.
this
If you
name
use my
before
code,
in a
you're gonna get free
movie.
shipping. They've got everything you could imagine there. This is where I got this shirt. It's where I got this backpack. All of it was on sale. It was a great deal. Again, use my code down below. You're going to get free shipping. Back to the video. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot to mention, Muhammad Ali's original name was Cassius Clay. Yeah, he was actually named after this guy too. Anyways, back to the video. Bye-bye. If you don't know, at this point in time, there's basically two different camps you could fall into for being anti-slavery. You could be an abolitionist or an emancipationist. An emancipationist is somebody that wants to vote it out over time over the next 5, 10, 20 years, versus an abolitionist,
They
which is
named
somebody
Mund
that believes
after
we
him.
need to end slavery right
Oh
now,
my
and
God.
they're willing to fight about it. And in the case of Cassius Clay, he was willing to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. You see, Cassius Clay wasn't just some nobody punk kid that went off to college and
Any
decided that he didn't
YouTuber
like
you
slavery.
like,
This was
or
the son
content.
of one of the wealthiest slave owners in all of America. So for him to come out and voice anti-slavery views was a huge deal, and it pissed off a lot of people. So
Does.
being that this was
Does
the
sound pretty big
1820s,
deal.
what do you do when you're pissed off?
Based.
You challenge somebody to a duel. So needless to say, the young Cassius Clay found
Bring
himself
back
partaking in
duels!
an awful lot of duels, and he never ever lost. So obviously
That's pretty
he's
punk.
good
That's
at
pretty
it. What
cool.
do you do when you find something you're pretty good at? You want to keep doing it, right? Right. So Cassius Clay starts challenging anyone and everyone to a duel that dares to oppose.
Just
him.
reminds me of the
It
Simpson
became
episode.
common knowledge
I'll
in his
challenge you to a
community that
duel,
Cassius
sir.
Clay would be willing to fight the wind if it blew from the west and he wanted it to blow from the east. This man went on a dueling rampage, so much so that by the time he graduated college, he was considered to be the deadliest duelist in all of North America. This guy was putting slave owners in the
Yugimoto
dirt like
is
he was
jealous
Johnny
right now.
Appleseed planting fucking trees. He became known as the deadliest abolitionist of all time. So he graduates from college, goes back home as a lawyer. Shortly after that, his father passes away and leaves everything to
Pistols.
Cassius
It's like
Clay.
having the Shadow
Cassius Clay
Realms.
immediately frees all of his father's slaves,
Aw,
costing himself
based.
$40,000,
That is so cool.
which is roughly $2 million today. And then he even gives some of the slaves land and money on top of it, absolutely infuriating the pro-slavery people in Kentucky. So what do you do when half the local population hates your guts? You run for public office, and that's exactly what Cassius Clay did. He served in the Kentucky state legislature from 1835 to 1841, and then finally lost his re-election, to which the pro-slavery crowd breathed a huge sigh of relief
Muhammad
because
Ali
they
or
finally
whatever?
defeated Cassius Clay, or so they thought. Clay immediately starts traveling the country, giving amazing anti-slavery speeches, winning over hearts and minds, and this absolutely infuriates the pro-slavery people because they don't know how
Charismatic
to
too.
stop it.
Dude
You
just
can't
got all the
legally stop
skills.
a guy from talking to people that want to listen to him, and they can't legally kill Cassius Clay in a duel because he's the best duelist on earth. What do? You've got to illegally
I
kill him.
disagree.
The problem
I'll
with that
duel
is
you, bro.
They can't find a hitman that's dumb enough to think that they can take out
A
Cassius
hitman?
Clay, so they have to go to the one crevice of the planet where they can find somebody truly insane enough to think that they can
They
do
say
this
Australia,
job.
I
That
swear to
man's
God.
name was Sam Brown, an assassin from New Orleans.
Oh, thank God.
1834, Russell
Wasn't
Cave,
us for
Kentucky.
once.
Cassius Clay's finishing up one of his world-famous speeches as he pulls out a burlap sack, reaches into the sack and pulls out a holy Bible and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of God, I make to you this argument
Yeah,
against
I'm
slavery."
able to
Sets
send him
the
to the
Bible on
Shadow
table,
Realm.
reaches back in the sack, pulls out a copy of the U.S. Constitution, and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of man, I present to you this argument against slavery." Sets the Constitution
believe
down
in
on
you,
the table.
Zeus.
Drops a burlap sack to the ground and says, "For those of you that believe in neither the laws of God or man, I make to you this argument against slavery," as he pulls out both of his pistols and sets them on the table, which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck.
Yeah.
And at this moment, Sam
Don't-
Brown
you
comes
don't-
up
you
on
don't agree with
stage
me? Fight
and
me.
shoots Cassius Clay point blank in the chest. Luckily, Cassius Clay never leaves home without his trusted Bowie knife, which resides inside of a metal sheath, and that metal sheath
It was
would catch
Andrew
Sam Brown's
Jackson.
bullet, saving Cassius Clay's life. At which point, Cassius Clay would draw his Bowie knife and charge Sam Brown. 6 of Sam Brown's friends in the audience tried to stop Cassius Clay. He would fight his
I'm
way
here,
through
bro.
all
I'm
6
here.
of them, making his way to Sam Brown, promptly stabbing him in the chest, and then turning him into a Mr. Potato Head by cutting off his nose, lopping off his ear, and gouging out one of his eyes. Then the 6 men recovered and were able to peel Clay off of him.
It is kind of badass though, right?
Knowing they couldn't stop Cassius Clay forever, they panicked, probably for fear that Cassius Clay was going to start shoving this guy's facial features up his ass next. They did the only thing they could come up with to get the two apart. They picked up their friend Sam Brown, threw him over a 7-foot-high stone wall. He fell down an embankment and into a creek bed to finally get Cassius Clay away from him. Somehow, Sam Brown survived, but not only was he lucky for that, he was also dumb as fuck because he then decided to take Cassius Clay to court because apparently after Cassius Clay stabbed him the first time, they were even on the whole assassination attempt thing.
That's hilarious. You don't want to hear the word of God, okay? Don't want to hear the laws of man. Okay, here are my guns.
I like how his voice went Australian on that. So not Australian, American on that.
Cousin, one of the best lawyers on the planet that had never lost in open court with over 40 years of experience, Henry Clay. Henry Clay goes into court and his entire defense for his cousin
best
is,
dueling
and I
record.
quote,
Oh, who
"Your
would've
Honor, this
known?
is
That's
just
crazy.
standard behavior for a Kentuckian." And the judge is just like, "You're innocent. Free to go. That's it. Best court case ever." Literally walks in and just goes,
insane.
I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
So after Cassius Clay was found innocent, Henry Clay decides that he's going to run for president, and Cassius is going to help him campaign. Cassius is going to tour the country, giving speeches, saying, hey, you know, vote for my cousin. Here's the rule with that. Henry Clay told him he's only allowed to tour the northern states because he's actually legitimately concerned that if he sends Cassius to the south, he's going to shoot so many fucking slave owners in duels that it could be considered voter fraud. So Henry Clay ends up losing the presidential election, and Cassius moves on to his next life adventure, which is becoming an author and writing anti-slavery news articles. The problem with that was none of the newspapers were willing to publish him, so he says, fuck you, I'll start my own newspaper, The True American. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, starting an anti-slavery newspaper in fucking Kentucky in 1845 was not very popular, and his business would receive death threats pretty much every day, some of which were written in blood. So Cassius Clay, in true Cassius Clay fashion, says, fuck it, I
don't believe, just start a business.
He then proceeds to up-armor his entire business in his printing office. He covers the entire front of the office in a large iron sheet. He installs several cannons down corridors.
Cannons! Oh my god!
Loaded guns and rigs it to explode. Here's the thing, he also doesn't expect his employees to fight to the death for him, so he installs an escape hatch and instructs them to escape if anything goes down, because he's gonna fight
I'll fight to the death
by himself. How's he gonna do that? As soon as you walk in the only door to get into that printing office, you find yourself in a long, narrow corridor with iron on each side, just wide enough
the
for
voting
a single man to get
demographic,
through. Cassius Clay is gonna stand in that narrow
America
corridor
be crazy
and fight
sometimes.
the entire mob, one man at a time. Literally the mentality of, if you have a problem, take a number, I'll kill you in a minute. This man recreated the entire battle of fucking Thermopylae with 300 Spartans, except he's gonna do it all by himself. If you think fucking with John Wick's dog is a bad idea, the last thing you want to do is fuck with Cassius Clay's printing press, because this man is determined to defend the freedom of speech with the right to bear arms at any cost. Obviously, this escalates to Cassius Clay defeating an entire mob single-handedly, right? Wrong. The mob, being full of, you know, super brave pro-slavery men that know they're doing the right thing,
if you don't
do
want
the
to
honorable
this
brave
way.
thing, and wait till Cassius Clay is bedridden with typhoid fever, so they know he isn't going to show up. They show up to his business at night and burn the place to the ground because they're a bunch of fucking bitches. Now, Cassius Clay recovers from typhoid fever.
Cowardly.
He reestablishes a newspaper in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is an anti-slavery stronghold. The only problem with that is, being an anti-slavery stronghold, there's not going to be any conflict, and that's fucking boring. So Cassius Clay moves on to another life adventure, volunteering in the Mexican-American War. While serving in the Mexican-American War, he would be a captain leading a group of Kentucky soldiers, and they would be captured pretty much immediately, and he would spend the duration of the entire war as a POW. While serving as a POW, some of the men under his command would escape, meaning that the Mexican military was then going to put the rest of his unit to death. I'm not sure who John Brown is either. Cassius Clay said, hey, don't kill my men. Just kill me and my other fellow officers. We're the ones in charge. It's our fault that those men escaped. It's our responsibility. Please let the lower enlisted men go home. The Mexican military was so impressed by this that they decided to spare everyone, including Cassius Clay, and he would return home a war hero. Returning home from the war in 1848, he didn't really know what to do, so he starts giving his famous speeches again. This time leveraging his newfound title as a war hero. So obviously it doesn't take long for him to piss everybody off. He faces yet another assassination attempt. This time 6 brothers from a wealthy slave-owning family show up, the Turner brothers. Cassius. They show up with clubs and knives and guns, and they beat the living shit out of Cassius Clay with the clubs. They stabbed him multiple times. Cassius Clay whips out his trusted Bowie knife, starts opening up these brothers like they're fucking Amazon packages, making his way to the lead brother and stabbing him an excessive amount of times. We don't know how many times, but we do know it was a lifetime supply. Killing the lead brother.
How am I meant to write a hate comment?
Cassius Clay would fall to the ground, nearly dead.
Hot
and this would be
take.
the closest
I thought only the Wild West was supposed to be wild, not all of America.
Later on in life, all he said was, "I felt the utmost indignation," which translates to, "I was fucking annoyed." This man almost
This is
died
about
from an
Cassius
assassination
Marcellus
attempt,
Clay?
and he has the same attitude towards it that I
think I
have
said that
towards
right.
fucking fruit flies, okay? This dude is so metal, he deserves his own spot on the periodic table of elements. Cassius Clay then makes a full recovery from his injuries, starts
Yeah,
giving
it's just
speeches
when they meant the
again.
Wild West, it was just
1853,
all of
he donates
America.
large chunks
They
of
did
his
not
land
just
to
mean
John
the place where the
Field.
cowboys
He
are.
found Berea College, the first co-educational and multiracial college in the South ever. Fast forward to 1860, Cassius Clay is giving speeches in Illinois where he meets a politician by the name of Abraham Lincoln, and they get along great. Cassius Clay is then slotted to become Abraham
God, they
Lincoln's
said
vice
his-
president.
they said the
However, he's a
word.
little bit too Cassius Clay to be an actual big-name politician like that, so they give the job to Hannibal Hamlin, and Cassius
But
Clay
Hannibal,
becomes the
jeez.
ambassador to Russia. 1861 rolls around, the Civil War breaks out, Cassius Clay is in Russia. Cassius Clay not only convinces Russia to not side with the Confederates, but he convinces Russia to tell Great Britain and France that if they so much as recognize the Confederacy, Russia will go to war with them. And this was a humongous step that nobody talks about in the winning of the Civil War. And it is 100% because of Cassius Clay. Fast forward to 1862. Abraham Lincoln wants to appoint Clay a major general in the Union Army. Cassius Clay publicly refuses the President of the United States, saying that he's not going to do it until the President signs the Emancipation Proclamation freeing the slaves of the South. Cassius Clay is literally the man that bullied Abraham Lincoln into prematurely signing the Emancipation Proclamation before he wanted to. And nobody talks about it. Fast forward again to 1865.
I wonder-
the Union
I
wins the
wonder
Great American Scrimmage.
the information
the
on
slaves
that.
were
That's
freed. Cassius
interesting.
Clay has achieved his lifelong goal at the age of 55,
Wasn't until
bringing an end to
For
slavery in the
real?
United
That's
States of
crazy,
America.
Slap.
He then goes back to Russia again to serve as ambassador until 1869, and while he is there, he helps to broker the purchase of Alaska. This man is probably
Wait,
the most
you guys
influential person in
purchased
American
Alaska?
history that you've never
It was
heard
always
of.
part of
After
America.
returning home from Russia, Cassius Clay would live out the rest of his days in Whitehall until the age of 80 years old, where he would be declared clinically insane. In hindsight, most likely due to a severe amount of PTSD, as well
Clinically
as potentially
insane,
dementia. He didn't die from it. He lived on for
Damn,
quite
I
a
had
bit
no
longer. He
idea.
just picked up a new hobby of fucking with the local sheriff because he was crazy now. Over the course of the next decade,
Wait.
Clay and the sheriff would have multiple run-ins that would be
Are you saying that America wouldn't have had Alaska be part of the country if Russia wasn't in debt? That's insane to think about, right?
concluded when the sheriff and 7 deputies were repelled from Whitehall when Clay utilized his
Can you imagine
home
today if
defense
Russia
cannon that he
still
had on
owned
top of his
Alaska?
stairwell. At that point, the
Insane.
local sheriff would inform the local judge he will not be returning to Whitehall to tangle with Cassius Clay anymore unless the judge was willing to dispatch an entire company of the local militia to accommodate him. Then in 1900, 2 men would break into Whitehall, and Cassius Clay at the age of 89 would manage to kill both of them, one by
My
gunshot
God.
and one
He
yet
can't
again
be stopped.
with his trusted Bowie knife. Then in 1903, at
Really
the age of
cheap, I
92,
forgot, gypped on the
Cassius
oils
Clay
my
would die
hot
of
socket,
natural
Russia.
causes, or as they called it back then, general exhaustion, which is the most gangster way on the
falling
planet
apart,
to
it's
go
all
out.
wrong.
Literally just, I'm tired
Oh,
now,
God.
peace. And then he left.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
In conclusion, when it comes to famous historical household names, there's always another man or woman lurking behind the scenes in the shadows that's deemed too rough around the edges to be in the spotlight, yet they contribute just as much, if not more, to the movement. These men and women are willing to do horrific things for terrific reasons, and when it came to Abraham
I
Lincoln
guess
and
this
the
story
abolition
wasn't
of
as much of
slavery,
a good
that
guy
man's name
versus
was
the world
Cassius
story
Marcellus
they
Clay,
wanted.
the most gangster politician in American history. Thanks for watching the video.
But he
Best
looks so
wishes to the
normal
channel.
too. You
Go buy
wouldn't
some
have thought
merch.
of me with
Battle
such a
Electrician.com.
cray with his
Quack bang,
guns.
out.
Very interesting. I learnt a lot. I should subscribe before I don't lose it again. But yeah, that was actually a very interesting watch, honestly, and as you guys helping me understand a bit more about American history. America has some of the most insane history on I wouldn't have thought like America didn't have a proper like police system until like 1940s and 50s. Like Australia was a baby country like at that time, but we still had a lot. You know, to before Alaska. Really? I do find it funny that like Russia owned like one of the coldest parts of America. They're just like, yes, can I get another cold place, please? Okay,